Why not go back to the Sanskrit? Tons of people taking yoga. They understand Sanskrit, right? Om Ganja. It's even okay to use ganja, marijuana, hemp, and pot in the same sentence. You know, I think it's good to mix it up. As far as where we are as in terms of other words I don't like my ears to hear are the words that one of them is tax and the other one is regulate. I think I share that with most people in this country. None of us want more taxes or more regulation. So I feel like those are words that don't help me get where I want to be. But I think the words lowest priority for law enforcement is someplace that there's been lots of traction on a local level, tons of excuses. And even though Rob's not here, I just want to throw a shout out to Rob and MPP because they got behind some Hawaii activists. Peaceful Sky, never met them in person. The Peaceful Sky people never made it to one of these conferences, didn't have the money, but they got some grant money. They went for the ordinance on lowest priority. They did not get enough signatures, but they brought it to the county council. A Green Party member of the county council, Bob Jacobson, brought it to the county council, and then they brought enough people in to testify that the county council voted to put it on the ballot. Yay. So it wasn't the way we thought it was going to be, but it happened, right? And so that's a great example, how to change that image at the local level. Of course, in Hawaii, we have a leg up because of Puna. We heard about ads. I'd like to mention art, okay? Ads cost money. Art costs money too. But then the people who get that money are artists. And a lot of those artists buy ganja. So you can see the circle, right? Whereas if you send your money to ad companies and TV stations, less of those people buy ganja. It makes it less back into the whole circle. So I really encourage the art thing. I think that the culture of ganja and the culture of art is international, lasting, and I'll just say one more thing, and that is a friend of mine was in East Berlin. He's a musician. He was there just before the wall fell, like a week before the wall fell, meeting with activists from East Berlin, and they're all talking, we feel that in this many years we're going to attain this milestone, and then a few years after that we're going to attain this second milestone, and then eventually the wall is going to come down. But and a week later the wall was down. And so what I'm just saying is those people didn't see it coming. Those activists that were right on the front didn't see it coming, and what they realized, well, when the SHIT started happening, they were there, they did their part, whatever it was, in a good way, the thing came down. So maybe the answer is just be ready and jump on whatever's going on that's good.
Excellent. Thank you, David Frankel. Is it just me, or is there a cool breeze coming in here? Oh my God, sweet Jesus, it's nice. As far as jumping on board with what's coming down the pike, we'll hear it from Alison Holcomb from the ACLU of Washington.
Thank you all for being here this morning. The American Civil Liberties Union is looking forward in reform with two principles in mind. The first of those being that marijuana law reform is going to happen at the local level first. We don't believe that federal change is going to happen soon. We think before federal change will happen, our congressional representatives will need to see that there's enough support at the local and state level that will essentially force their hands. That's why we're working specifically here in Washington State through the affiliate, the American Civil Liberties Union of Washington, to pursue cannabis reform. The second principle that we are basing our work on is that we need to engage the mainstream if we are going to have an impact on marijuana law reform. We need to engage those people who are not themselves cannabis consumers, at least at the moment. They may have been in the past, but it's no longer an issue that is important for them when they're looking at the array of political problems that we face, such as has been mentioned, the war in Iraq, the economy, education, healthcare. We need to figure out what these people care about. In order to pursue these goals, we did some public opinion research. And what we found out is that what resonates, well, there's two things we found out. The first being that a lot of people don't know about the impacts of our marijuana laws. Once you start telling them that you can lose your college scholarship, that you can be made that you can have your right to vote taken away from you. That here in the state of Washington, possession of a very small amount of marijuana is a crime, and it carries a mandatory minimum sentence of a day in jail and a $250 fine. People don't know that. We found out here in Washington that while 82% of the people support medical marijuana, 75% of them didn't know we already had a medical marijuana law and have had one for 10 years. So we decided that what needs to happen is education. And we need to focus that education on what we also learned from the poll is, what do these people care about? If they aren't current cannabis consumers and aren't immediately invested in this issue, what do they care about? And what we found out that they cared about is the waste, the tremendous waste of resources that marijuana law enforcement has. The way that it diverts their public safety resources from solving violent crimes. Over half of our violent crimes go unsolved every year. And we're diverting those resources to the record numbers of people that were arrested in 2006, 829,627. They care about wasted resources. They also care about unfairness. They care about the fact that marijuana arrests fall disproportionately on our young black men and on people of color. They care about those issues, even if they don't themselves enjoy cannabis. So we embarked upon a campaign to educate the public. And we were lucky enough to have Rick Steves help us. Some of you may know him. And we produced a half-hour television program called Marijuana, It's Time for a Conversation, as well as a 35-page companion booklet with key talking points and resources, footnotes, very extensive, to give people information and also talking points to take back to their families and friends. We also have a website up, marijuanaconversation.org. And recently, for those of you that live in the area, you'll learn that we found out that our local network affiliates wouldn't air the program, even though we'd been promised that we would be sold time to air the program. They wouldn't sell it to us, even though they'll air sitcoms during prime time that depict teenagers getting stoned in a basement, even though they'll air sitcoms that show retired police officers accidentally getting high on brownies, even though they'll air dramas that show mothers slipping medical marijuana brownies to their daughters. They won't show a half-hour program that doesn't depict marijuana, doesn't depict anyone using marijuana, but talks strictly about marijuana laws and the impact that they're having on their communities. So we put the program on the website, and as of August 6th, it's now available worldwide, a half-hour television program that calls upon, it has interviews of national experts across the country. And our hope is that by exposing people to the information and shaping the information in a way that matters to them, that is relevant to them, whether they enjoy cannabis or not, that they will start to take an interest, and that this is how we'll build a wider base of support for marijuana law reform, which is what we think we need to do. So I hope all of you will go and check out the website, and there's an opportunity at the website to let us know what you think. What do you think about the website? What do you think about the program? And if you like it, if you think it's valuable, we hope that you'll forward the link to your friends and family members so that they too will have a chance to learn and talk and engage in the conversation.
Alison Holcomb from the ACLU of Washington. And I'll say one thing that I know that Alison won't, and that is that if you're really upset at Como TV for their obvious double standard and hypocrisy, call up the station manager, Vice President of Como, Jim Clayton, and tell him he's a hypocritical douchebag. Next up, we have Kris Krane, Executive Director of Students for Sensible Drug Policy.
All right, well, speaking of hypocritical douchebags, I'm going to talk a little bit about Congress. Thanks. So I want to start talking about a campaign that we've been actively engaged in at SSDP, and not just because I want to inform you about the campaign, but because it kind of dovetails into my larger point, which is more fitting for this panel. Many of you are aware that there's a law out there, the Higher Education Act's aid elimination penalty, or drug provision, which says that any student that's convicted of a drug offense, even a minor marijuana possession offense, automatically loses their financial aid for college or becomes ineligible for financial aid for college for between 1 year and indefinitely, depending on how many convictions they have and the nature of the offense. Well, over the course of the past 2 years, we've had our best opportunity in Congress to repeal this law.